Right, so let's continue preparing this geometry for our first simulation for the draping. So first I just want to make a quick group of this collar. We're not going to use that now, but we are later, because this is kind of like a separate, it's only joined at the front, kind of down there, so we need to kind of fix that to the rest of the neck, but for the drape it doesn't matter. So I'm just going to, what I'm going to do is just select this one polygon at the back, group that, call this collar, okay, and then just grab a group, expand, and find my collar, copy that, and just so the name doesn't change, and then just expand that out so it grabs the whole thing. I want, make sure it grabs everything. Go a bit under there, doesn't matter really. Yeah, I can go back one. No, leave it like that. Okay, and then okay, we need to remesh this just like we've done earlier, okay, to give us a more even topology. Let's try a 1. That looks pretty good. And again, I'm going to push the iterations up to 10 just so we get even topology and hopefully no kind of triangles without any area on them. I'm just going to drop a, this isn't absolutely necessary, but just to demonstrate something, I'm going to drop a UV quick shade here. Okay, and if we take a look at that, I'm going to focus on the edges of the UVs there. When I remesh this, you can see we get this weird thing going on at the boundaries, right? So what we need to do is if we drop a vertex split, okay, we need to set this to, well, can't see it there. Set this, doesn't work yet, but if we set this to the UV, not normal, okay, then we get these splits back. But the problem is, I don't know if we'll be able to see this. It's kind of hard to see there, but the numbers, we've got separate geometry now. Another way that we can see this, if I press 9, if you go into 3D connected geometry, this is a visualizer for separate pieces of 3D geometry, right? So you can see that these are separate now. If I drop a fuse after this, which will fuse together points which are closer than this distance, okay, you can see it's all one piece of geometry again, but we still have these nice clean UV borders. Okay, I know the UVs aren't perfect now. We got these, it's a bit weird, but you know, it's better than nothing. We'll get rid of that UV quick shade and press 9 to get rid of this group thing. And let me just, there we go. So that's good. Let's also copy and paste that onto the trousers. Alt click and drag to bring that over, by the way. Okay, take a look at our trousers. But I think I want, oh, and we need the vertex split there as well. Okay, drop that there. But I also want to change this remesh, do 1.5, just a little bit less coarse because they're gonna be less bendy, basically. So we got this group for the for all of the trousers, but I also need to group the top and possibly the bottom as well, for the so that we can hold the trousers up, kind of like a belt, right? So if I drop a group, yeah, try again, drop a group node, drop that in, okay, and call this belt there. We want this on the points, I believe. We don't want the base group. We're going to include by edges and unshared edges. So let's see if that works. There we go. So you can see we get these edges which have kind of like raw edges, right? And that is kind of handy because it grabs the top and the bottom for us, which we can use a bit later. Okay, that's great. Let's see, what else do we want to do? Let's look at cutting this. Okay, so the clothes are going to be ripped up when the crocodile is attacking the hunter. So we need to pre-fracture the clothes and stitch it back together so that when it's simulated, they they can be ripped apart, right? So what we use is called the edge fracture, which is, I think, a new node. Houdini 17, I'm not sure. So what this will do is basically split up the geometry randomly. You can take a look here with the pieces. Okay, so these will all be separate pieces of geometry now. And using these kind of weird shapes. Okay, so we can either use that or we can feed in some lines. So what I'm going to do is use a draw curve. Okay, connect that up to the original mesh, the shirt, right? Go to projection, use where is it? Projection geometry. Okay, and then when I draw, it will go straight directly onto the shirt. Okay, and then feed that into this edge fracture. So wherever I draw, that's what will come into here. Okay, so these initial pieces, I don't want any initial pieces, and we don't need this this attribute either. So I'm just going to draw some kind of random cuts on here. So yeah, the crocodile is going to be biting around the waist, right? So I want a load of lines kind of like that. So you can take more time than me if you like, but I'm just going to do this just to show you. Okay, so we get those nice cuts. So this will all be ripped up, and then maybe we'll do some on the sleeves as well. Oh, trying to avoid weird things like that happening, so I think it will give a strange result. It's because I'm going from this surface down there, so if I just change the camera angle, I should avoid that. There we go. Okay, do maybe another little one there. Let's do a long jagged cut there, little one here. And what I also like to do is have one of the sleeves come off, excuse me, come off completely. So I'm just going to grab a circle. Okay, and I'm going to use a NURBS curve and put this on the XY plane, not to the right. Let's see if I do that. And then I can position it around one of the arms. Let's see, bring it over here. And can I rotate it? Yeah. Okay, do this one. Doesn't matter which one really. And then obviously bring the scale way down. And then just drop a mountain to give it some more interesting features. Do we have many points on this? I'll give it some more points. And the divisions, yeah. And then let's see, what can we do with this mountain? Oh, I want this scale to be only in what's... No, like that is fine actually. Bring it down a bit, maybe make it rougher, something like that. Let me just make this smaller again. Cool, and just change the position, pull it back. Trying to get it not to clip the geometry there, just in case it does something weird. Maybe I'll bring this down a little bit. And rougher still. Cool. And then if I plug this, if I just, merge this with these lines. Okay, we should, you won't see it now, unfortunately, but it will be cut into separate pieces, right? I think if I do that, yeah, so you'll see that this piece is separate. All of the other cuts are there, but they are, it's not a separate piece of geometry, but this arm, excuse me, this arm is. So the arm will be able to separate and fly off by itself, but these pieces won't, right? They'll just be kind of cuts on the arm, right? So I'm just going to do the same thing over here with the trousers. So let's grab a draw curve as well, connect that up to the original geometry there. Projection, we want the geometry, there we go. And also an edge fracture here. This goes into the left, this into the right. We're using, you know, you can try and do this kind of stuff with booleans and stuff, but you know, we're trying to avoid getting tiny little triangles and things. And what this does is give us nice clean geometry to go into Vellum. And once it's in there and, you know, we're further away, you know, we don't need that tiny detail on the surface. And obviously this may look kind of geometric now. We've got these straight lines, but once the cloth is allowed to fold and move, and it will look more organic. Okay, cool. So edge fracture there. So let's just draw a whole load of lines on here as well. With the trousers here, if I remember correctly, so these we should be putting on the texture really, but there's kind of like there's like knee pads with kind of elastic bits going around here. So I'm going to visualize here. Okay, so I'm going to try and avoid these parts and just select there. That way I can kind of try to avoid, I don't want to, you know, I don't want to tear to go through the knee pad, basically. That doesn't really make sense. So I'm just going to cut, just draw some lines along these parts and kind of between these, you know, just little random lines. It's a bit awkward to visualize. There we are. And then some at the top here as well, as that's where the crocodile will be biting, all the teeth on the bum. Cool. So let's see. That's, well, we won't be able to see that until we put on the constraints. We won't actually see that, unfortunately. Let's delete any attributes we don't need. Do you see that's there? Attribute delete, please. There we go. Don't think there'll be much on there, but yeah, this weird FBX stuff, we'll just get rid of all of them. We want the normals and the UVs. Delete that. We might want the names later. Detail, we don't need that. I'll just copy and paste this for that as well. Cool. Okay, I think these are pretty much ready to be for us to add constraints onto next.